Welcome, everybody, to the Community Preservation Committee of January 28th, 2026. I want to tell you that certain meetings normally held at the municipal offices are being held remotely with adequate alternative means of public access, and where required, public participation provided in accordance with House Bill number 58 of the 193rd General Court, which extends the Governor's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027. Meetings are typically broadcast on what, YouTube? Is it now?
Yeah, on the Deerfield YouTube channel, I believe.
We should change that, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
So I will call meeting to order at 6:18 p.m. The guidelines for a business meeting: to speak one at a time, follow Deerfield Code of Conduct, be respectful, considerate, courteous, concise, and please raise your hand before speaking to be recognized by the chair. Members present, Sean Libby. Oops,
You're muted.
yeah, try again. I can't hear you.
John Libby here.
Oh, thank you. Lily Dwight,
Here.
Frank Leone,
Present.
and Buchanan.
Here.
Jeff Brown.
Here.
Kathy Sylvester here. Okay, so first order of business. Oh, I'm sorry. Guest present is Tim Helchi. Who else? It's Ben Benson.
And Chris Harris.
And Chris Harris. Yes, sorry. Okay. Anybody have any amendments to the minutes from January 14th?
I would just like to say those are most excellent minutes, and I move that we approve them.
And a
I
second.
second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Who is that? Who seconded?
Sean seconded it.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor, and Buchanan?
Yes.
John Libby?
Yes.
Frank Leone?
Yes.
Lily Dwight?
Yes.
Jeff Brown?
Yes.
And Kathy Sylvester, yes. Yeah, very excellent minutes, Jeff. Doing a great job. So the next thing is to review and vote on the tack painting application. I did send a couple of questions to Chris. I got your response like 2 minutes before the meeting. He did update again the application, which I haven't had a chance to send to anyone. There was just a couple of things there. I sent you back an email, Chris. There's just one page that under phase 2 of the application, it mentions unconditional housing. So it's still talking about it being conditional, but it's
so that actually is, I think you referred to the proposal from the studio.
okay.
So that was the original proposal from the studio, and I didn't want to modify anything that studio wrote. The numbers, I've confirmed the numbers, and the scope of work is still exactly the same. He has not changed the budget.
That makes sense. Did anybody else have any comments or questions about the application?
Peter's just coming in, so
okay, great.
Definitely want to give him an opportunity to.
Hi, Peter. I don't know if you can hear me yet.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we're just getting started, and we're reviewing the tack painting, and wondered if anyone had any comments or questions.
I'm not sure what they're proposing here for the extra language. Because my feeling is, because we don't have a lot of money that we're putting into this thing, we probably can keep any special conditions simpler. I like the idea of a representation within the chicken conditions that they're going to keep the painting owned by a nonprofit within Deerfield, and that Deerfield residents will always have reasonable access to viewing it.
Sounds reasonable.
And I'm not, because the way they explained it, they're probably going to have to use our money before the end of the project. In this situation, I don't have a lot of questions about protecting it. Our general conditions are going to require them to give us periodic reviews, but it's a much larger project to recondition the painting and then get it up. Clearly, we know that Tim Newman is excited about helping out, and he's been around for a long time, so I value his contribution.
Yeah. Any other comments from anyone? Lily?
Yes. So there was some discussion about the ownership of the painting, and Chris, you had talked about that Friends of Deerfield might give it to Pecumtuck Valley Memorial Association, and I don't know what ended up getting resolved there, but I was reminded when I was reading Peter's conditions for another project that that there, if the town has an interest in and invested in something, then they can get it, require that it be, God, what's the term? I'm sorry, my brain's freezing. It was about the 1821 building to get a restriction on it. Yes. So, and this is actually sort of directed at Peter, because, just because I'm like, should we require a restriction on this because it is a private nonprofit that we are funding for an historical purpose. And that would be the case too, even if they gave it to PVMA, presumably, right?
Well, we're stuck here in the preservation restriction language is essentially looking at who owns the property that's involved, and it doesn't give us the same kind of guidance with who owns the stuff. I think that that we can kind of meet it in between, as long as the current nonprofit accepts the conditions that if they don't own it anymore, they will transfer it to another nonprofit entity in Deerfield, and that the Deerfield residents will always have access to it. Frankly, if this was a $200,000 gift, I would look at it somewhat differently. But it's a $5,000 contribution to the maintenance, and I don't feel badly about keeping it a little bit looser.
Okay, so then so you're saying that the condition would be that wherever the painting ends up, it must always be available for Deerfield residents.
Yes.
Access, something like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And
Cool.
and owned by a nonprofit.
And owned by a private owned by a nonprofit sited in Deerfield.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes that cool.
Sound okay to you, Chris?
Absolutely, totally agree with that. And in fact, the bylaws of our 501c nonprofit don't allow us to wind down or transfer assets to other entities that are not of the same mission and goals as we are. So it has to be a Deerfield nonprofit based on what our mission and purpose is.
There is a couple of questions by Tim Hilchey. To briefly explain the amount of CPC funds being requested, that's $5,000, and whether this will be the only CPC funding sought. And I guess you could answer that piece, Chris.
Yeah, so for this project and this painting, yes. I mean, the current budget is still just below 55,000. And with 10% of that coming from this 5,000 CPA grant. So we have like 5 different avenues of fundraising to get the other 50,000. And that's the extent of the project, all the way from removing it from its current location to redisplaying it at PVMA. Everything is in that budget.
And how far have you gotten with the other funding? Just curious.
So we probably have commitments for about I would say 10,000 of it right now. But this a recommendation from the CPC actually provides the backdrop to go for the lead donor. That's very important.
Okay.
And then to branch out to others that are have been associated with Deerfield and TAC artwork that are spread across the country. That'll be important too.
So I assume you're going to get commitments on the total amount before you start working on it?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is not as much as the studio wrote a proposal that it might be phased work. No, the current position is that Friends of Deerfield will not start this or do this unless we have everything, and we're going to get it done in a timely manner this year.
Okay. Lily.
So, if you are unable to raise the funds, or if town meeting doesn't accept the recommendation to fund this, will you still have the funds to get the painting out of the church, which has got to be a horrible environment for? Will you have the funds to be able to do that, to preserve it while you maybe come back again? It depends. I mean, that's just all speculation, but will you be able to, regardless, get the painting out of the church and into a decent environment for it?
Yeah, because taking the painting out of the church will cost about 5,000 of the 55. And so it will come out of the church, but ideally we want it to come out of the former church and be transported to the studio directly and not be multiple handled and go through various storage, temperature swings, etc. Every time you handle something like this, it could get damaged by accident.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Comments? Do people feel ready to vote on this? Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll entertain a motion to approve the funding of the for $5,000 for the TAC painting restoration.
I move that we recommend to town meeting the approval of $5,000 for the restoration of the TAC painting, based on the conditions that we have discussed, which I know that Jeff has in his minutes.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion?
Who was
Okay,
the second?
Ann Buchanan.
Thank you.
All those in favor, Sean,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Ann? Aye. Peter,
Aye.
Lily,
Yes?
and Jeff,
Aye.
and Kathy, yes. Thank you, Chris, for a very thorough application.
Thank you.
And
I
once
do,
we,
but I have a question of Chris. Are you going to be here at town meeting if people have questions, or somebody from your group?
I
guess?
could very well be. I will have to travel back to Deerfield. It's going to be the third week of April. because for a memorial service for my sister-in-law who passed away a week ago up in southern New Hampshire. So I haven't put together that trip, but that may actually be when we try to move that painting. The weather should be right, and do further discussions and surveys at PVMA, specifically in terms of where we have to prepare any of the buildings, et cetera.
I just think that you
this
would
point.
be the best advocate when it comes up in town meeting, because there may very well be people who are concerned about the subject matter, and you can advocate as being representative of the artist. And I think that it's going to be important for someone, you or someone from your organization, to be there. I think that would be a good idea.
And town meeting is now in May, right?
Yeah, I know it's the first week of May, so
Okay.
I'll do my best. And obviously, things are a little in flux of how many trips I can make in 2 weeks.
Maybe somebody else from Friends of Deerfield could
Yeah,
do it. Yeah. Okay. Great.
thank you.
Okay, so the next thing is to review the Mill River Cemetery application, and I will let Ben speak about that.
Okay, well, thank you all for viewing this application. I think it's pretty simple and straightforward and comparable to what the Historical Commission has asked for in the past. The big difference, and it was brought to my attention that we do have requirements to be of historic value. Now, I guess that they could get into an emotional issue. Everybody has a history. Some people's history are more interesting to more people than others. The Mill River Cemetery, as far as I can tell, is certainly a historic property in the town and has been around for more than 150 years. But I can't think that there's an awful lot of really well-known, residents. So I put in a question to Stuart Saganor at Kathy's suggestion to make sure that this fits in with the guidelines of what the Community Preservation Coalition feels is appropriate as a historical submission. Now, the town of Deerfield does not have a separate cemetery commission, which could certainly lobby if we had one. Not every town in Massachusetts does, although I guess every town is entitled to and maybe supposed to. We don't have one. So over the years, the Historical Commission has stepped in to ask for work done on the various cemeteries. This is a cemetery in a less well-known, less historic part of town, but those people are people. And I'm waiting to hear from Stuart Saganor. So I would understand if the commission couldn't make a decision tonight, but I certainly am here to answer any questions you have.
I would point out that, and I didn't tell you this before, but in the summary, in the beginning of the application, might want to change the word repair to restore.
I will certainly do that.
So are there any comments or questions for Ben, for anyone? Oh, Chris, do you have?
Yeah, so my familiarity with Mill River Cemetery is, in fact, there's a lot of interconnected families. They even go back to Albany Road, Laurel Hill, then to Pine Nook, then going up in that part of town, and then even families that migrated into other Western Massachusetts and into New York State families, kind of that tracks, migration patterns of people continuing to move west, mainly for agrarian purposes. So it is interconnected if you start getting into the details of the families and the relationships and go through like Edith Nyman's 1981 book on the epitaphs in all the Deerfield cemeteries. You start seeing the linkages in the families at the detailed gravestone level. That's all I'll add to that.
I think that's a wonderful comment. I could not have said it that well. And it would take someone to sit there and do that legwork, and that takes time. And, we have gravestones that are in need of restoration.
Anne, you had a question?
Well, I
And then-
actually have a comment. I would be happy with the idea that the cemetery itself is historic, whether or not there are famous people or well-known people in the cemetery. But that's
If you,
And Peter,
if you
you
need me to reword the application, I can do that.
yeah, I think it's just that under, historic significance, he didn't have anything. So we need something to justify giving money to it. Peter, did you have a question?
Well, I had a comment. I've walked around a lot of cemeteries, and I can remember even one of our Eagle Scout candidates had a project at the old Albany Road Cemetery years ago, and I happen to think it's a pretty vital piece of the town. Lean on what Chris had said. You've got families that were the movers and shakers of the town. You have families that are all over the community, and they express different cultures within the town. It's for anybody that's doing any history of a town. You've got to spend some time in the cemeteries. They're very instructive, and I don't think this is a reach at all. I think this is an easy standard. So I'm all for it.
I think it's just a matter of like on the application, we have to write something, that says it has historic significance, and that was missing. So Jeff, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, I mean, who are we to judge who's important and who's not important, right? I mean, history is always being developed, and like Bill's pioneer women diaries. Well, that wasn't important in the early 20th century, but in the late 20th century, that was really important. And so some of these people may become important in the future, and certainly just as people, as historical figures, as people who lived here, who lived and died here, I think they're all important. And just because there's no celebrities there doesn't mean that it's not important.
Well, I would agree with that. I think it's just, again, a matter of stating that in the application and making a case for his historic significance. And that's missing at this moment. But I
think Ben would be very capable of expressing that.
I'm more than happy to do that and resubmit the application with your approval.
Yeah, I think that we just need that piece of information. Maybe Stuart can help you summarize it somehow. And okay. I don't think there's any other issues with the application, and I'm not hearing any here. I don't think it's a problem. We just have to have it on the application because that's our job, is to fund historically significant things.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and it's just one of the many things that I'm learning about how to do things right. And I appreciate the the consideration and the support from the committee.
So what I would say is we'll table a vote on this until the next meeting, and I'll let you know when that is or you can hang out and find out at the end of the meeting that we set the next meeting.
I'll be happy to hear from you later on. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Kathy.
Sure.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. So next, Alex is here to discuss the draft conditions on the 1821 building. Really are not quite done yet, but I do know there might be some questions. So anyone want to talk about the application as it pertains to conditions? Lily?
So I think this is a question to Peter because I need clarity. So I'm looking at the 1888 CPA grant agreement excerpts that's up on the drive. And Agreement 1, deed restrictions. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, Section 12, every project that involves the acquisition of any interest in real property with committee funds shall be bound by a permanent deed restriction, etc., etc. So what I don't understand is vis-a-vis the 1821 steeple engineering project, we're not acquiring anything. So I don't understand how, unless my understanding of acquire means owning something. Can you explain that, please?
There's sort of a misnomer here, but the preservation restrictions can attach to property that's already owned. Now, for an example of that is an APR restriction. We had an application last year from the Melnicks. They're going to get an APR, and we're going to fund it with, I think it's $19,000. They already own the property, but then they have to go through the process of restricting the property in that vein. We also have, and it hasn't really, I don't think it's been done in the past by this committee, and the historical preservation restrictions are, the law is evolving with regard to those babies. But the fact of the matter is, we have a property that's owned by the town, and that they are asking for a sum of money initially to fix the steeple, and obviously that's an historic rehabilitation, because they could just cut it off and we wouldn't have the steeple anymore. They're also asked for material money toward the study, toward rehabbing the floor. And obviously that would be for some sort of common experience area and the better use of the property. Combined with the fact this particular property is subject to a limitation on its use for the next 23 years that was prepared by the former owners of the property. And so we evolve into that direction. My only concern is if you're going to be putting somewhere between, a considerable amount of money into the building, number one, you got to be able to declare that it's a historic rehabilitation. Then your second question is, what should we do to protect that historic rehabilitation? That's why we're stuck in this, and we don't. And it has a further problem that we're working on. Who's going to hold the restriction? Because the town owns the property. And this is a legal issue that really has not been well defined by the legislature or the rules. But that's how we get started.
I'm sorry, but I guess I wasn't clear. I don't understand how an engineering study is the acquisition of
you own it already.
Interest in the property. That's what I'm just not understanding.
Already, it doesn't matter. You already own the property. I can ask for a historic preservation of my own property. Somebody else.
Wait. I don't think you're understanding what I don't understand. So my understanding is that this says that we, as the CPC, should require deed restriction if the money is involving the acquisition of an interest in property. But I don't understand how since this is for engineering studies. I'm just saying I don't understand how an engineering study involves the acquisition of property.
If the engineering study is not available, we can't give them money. If it's not if it's not relative to the historical reservation, we can't fund any of the study.
So how is an engineering study the acquisition of interest? That's what I'm not understanding.
Being hung up on the word acquisition, you can also own it. You can either acquire it or you can own it and then make it subject to, it's the same principle for 61A and B properties. You may already own the property, but you got to give a restriction.
But I don't understand. We're funding an engineering study. How is that? That's what I'm not trying to be a total pain in the ass. I just literally don't understand how an engineering study is considered acquisition of property. It's
not an acquisition. It's the rehabilitation of an historic.
Understood, but why do we need a deed restriction if it's not an acquisition?
What are you going to do after the work is done? You're going to let it sit
but
there?
That's not what we're voting on right now. Right now, we are voting on an engineering study. Yes, they'll come back, and then we talk about a deed restriction when they're asking for funding for the work. That's what this is the distinction I don't.
Okay,
I think we're a little early.
Now, respectfully, you have me confused. I thought some of the money was already approved for the steeple restoration.
Alex, do you want to chime in here?
May I? Yeah. Yeah. So I found another excerpt, Lily, that I can send to you that kind of continues that draft language that I pulled. So that language is literally just from our 1888 contract, like with the CPC. And so like if you go back to like more of like the like the coalition, the CPC, the coalition's like language, it says acquired, that limiting the use of the interest for the purpose for which the historic asset was acquired or historically rehabilitated. So I think it's like under like this very tiny verbiage that because there's a historic rehab aspect of the project, it makes sense to do a deed restriction. And I think
Okay,
that's fine.
yes, that clarifies it for me anyway. I hope I didn't confuse everybody else. But
So
thank you.
Alex is gonna bring to the next meeting probably, after town council has a chance to look at what you and Peter have come up with.
Yeah, and
Alex,
just
when you
to
talk to town council, see if you can get a straighter answer out of them as to who has to hold the restriction.
yeah,
That's
no,
not getting a straight answer out of my research, and I think that we're in kind of a conundrum in that normally the town would hold the restriction or the owner of the property would hold the restriction. So if you can get a straighter answer out of them, that would clear up a couple of other things.
Yeah, so just to add on, Peter, because I was doing a little research myself today, and actually because it's a town asset and because of the preservation restriction we're talking about, we'll probably have to go through MHC, Massachusetts Historic Commission, to actually get it approved and review and get their okay and approval on it before we can even bring it to town council and then record it and everything else, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So I can send you the CPC article, but I'm just going to reach out to this person from MHC, and I'm sure they've probably are aware of like
Well,
how it should work.
MHC has had a strong role in a lot of the stuff that we've done in Old Deerfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And,
yeah.
they're an appropriate resource, and I think I'm not sure if Don Friary is still working with them down there. There's a lot of history, and it'd be great to bring them involved in it and save us a whole lot of time.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I'm saying. It may take me a little longer, but we'll get it out and we can figure out language for, the condition now that will write up language that is approved by MHC and the board, and then everyone's a signatory, unfortunately, to that permanent restriction that we have to figure out. So we'll get it for sure.
So hopefully we're gonna discuss that at the next meeting. They'll be done, you think, or do you need more time?
Well, I think we can get language, hopefully, that, CPC is comfortable with as a condition that will record a restriction that is approved by MHC and, list out who needs to be involved.
Okay.
Or at least just follow the MGL chapter 184 for historic, or for preservation restrictions. I think, one thing that would be helpful maybe is if people could think about if we want to do a term or a permanent restriction. So permanent restrictions, it says it can be a very lengthy process, going back with MHC. I'm going to reach out and ask. So I'll get more info, and then we can maybe have a more fruitful discussion at the next meeting. But I
Really?
can't promise MHC will respond. So.
Okay. Really have a question?
Yeah, if it's a term, are terms usually like 99 years or something like that? Is that when you say term?
It says 30. A term greater than 30 years must be approved, by the state agency, and it can be a lengthy process.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I have one question, and it gets back to my first, the bifurcation of this money. I was under the understanding that the work for the steeple repair has already been done, and a lot of the engineering work is going to be dealing with the floor. So can somebody clarify my misunderstanding here?
Yeah, so the engineering is kind of both, right? Like if you shore up the floor and then the steeple's off, then we've restored something that then make it, jarred the wrong way. We need to fix it again. So we want to do some engineering, at least initially, make sure it's solid and do the restoration once we confirm that, the building's solid, the flooring, the framing, everything leading
So
up
it's
to it.
both, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, both.
You're doing both.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's even better.
Are there any more comments or questions? So the next thing on the agenda is to review the funding grant agreement letter, which Alex has worked hard on, and I'm gonna share my screen so people can see it. I hope. Why is it so small, really? I don't know. Okay, there it is. Everybody can see this, I'm assuming, right? So the CPC committee heading, I'm not sure what that would be,
Just if you wanted the town logo or if you guys wanted to use the icon from the CPC plan or something, just
okay.
a placeholder.
Okay, got it. So the 2026 CPA project funding grant agreement letter. So dear, I'm just going to read it. Dear recipient, congratulations. Your project has been awarded a Community Preservation Act grant by the town of Deerfield. Your effort and cooperation during this year's project selection process secured support at the annual town meeting. Voters agreed that your project is worthwhile and now they expect that it will be executed. Please note this award is contingent upon the conditions attached here too. Please return a signed copy of the award letter to the CPC chair by email or deliver a hard copy to town hall. So under the grant summary, we have the funding category and source, grant award letter number. I don't know if we have a number, but what's that refer to, Alex?
I think just if you wanted to assign numbers to sort things, it's totally optional.
Okay, town meeting approval date and the article, the recipient, the project title, the award amount, additional sources of committed funding, percent and type, project completion date, progress report, due date. Any questions, contact town planner. Special conditions, if applicable, to be edited. Under general conditions, I just wondered if we should have a comment in there about, they need to break ground within 3 years or the funding expires. Just because I don't know that everybody really knows that when they get money or something. Any comments on that from anyone? People think differently.
I agree. And also there's a missing open paren in the last item of the table above.
There's a missing what?
Open paren. Oh, not in the last item. Additional sources of committed funding. It should be open paren percent and type.
Oh, got it.
That's all.
Where did it go? Oh, I don't know. Let's try this. Mine are different than Alex's. So the progress report, recipient must submit a written progress report to the CPC chair within 6 months of the award, which would kind of line up with our November 1st, which we want yearly reports. So they would do that and then annually. So I might want to just change that to instead of within 6 months, put on November 1st, just and annually on November 1st to be more specific. Let's see. That's not what I do. And do other people feel okay with that?
I think specific dates are helpful to everybody. This year, I guess, and annually after November 1st until oh, I guess, yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, well, you'll know what to do. It's not quite edited correctly.
Well, can I?
Go ahead.
Sorry, Kathy. Just so we approve these at town meeting. I mean, that is pretty much 6 months after, right? Is November. So
November,
could
that's
just say annually on November 1st, right?
Well, want them to, we could just say, yeah, on November 1st, or just say yearly on November, yeah, however you want to word it, that makes
Okay.
sense. It
Cool.
gives you the idea.
Yep.
Progress report should denote the work completed to date, money spent to date, timeline for remaining work, and changes or unexpected issues to the project scope. Any questions so far, anybody? And then modifications, alterations, or changes to the project scope or special conditions must be submitted in writing for advanced review and written approval by CPC. Additional sources of committed funding as discussed in the application. These may include in-kind materials, labor, grant dollars, etc. Payment of funds. Payments are made after goods have been delivered or services rendered. Reimbursement documentation such as an invoice must be submitted to the town administrator and town accountant for review and approval. The select board must then approve the warrant for payment. The town reserves the right to request additional documentation to ensure the charges are correct and the goods, materials, or services were ordered and received. Any questions so far? This is long. Recorded documents, the recipient will provide a copy of the legally recorded documents with restrictions as defined in Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, Section 12, to the town administrator. The recipient shall provide the town administrator with a satisfactory certificate of title, evidencing clear and marketable ownership of the
Stop
property.
right there.
Sorry?
We need to tidy that up where it says evidencing. I would like it to read evidencing good and clear and marketable title. 2.
To what?
Well, that you pick up the property.
I'm sorry? Did you
Okay,
say that?
I'll say it again. After evidencing, it should read good, comma, clear, and marketable title. 2.
Yeah.
Now,
To the property.
strike ownership and put title.
Ownership and title, or
No,
take?
strike ownership and replace it with title, and then strike of and replace it with 2.
Okay.
Okay, so it should read, and I think you got it right. Certificate of title evidencing good, clear, and marketable title to the property.
Free from all liens, encumbrances, or defects except as otherwise approved in writing by town administrator. I
So
know.
I have a question.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. There are a lot of things that we fund that are not property with titles and deeds and stuff, and yet there may be some with recorded documents. I mean, I don't know about like the archives that we did. So I think that under that there should be this should be clearly identified as if your grant involves the acquisition of property, then da 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 da. Because if I were somebody cleaning a cemetery, I'm like, what am I supposed to do for recorded documents? Do I really have to show the title to the cemetery? So I'm just saying that I think that we cannot assume that people are gonna all buy property. It just needs to be clear that this only pertains to that. Thank you.
I'm sorry, you lost your last sentence. Are you talking about personal property or real property?
I'm just saying that that you're talking about title and not everything that we do. An awful lot of what we do doesn't involve land acquisition or titles. So
I'm
it
only
just
talking about the land, the interest in real estate, and this particular
exactly.
this
So
phrase.
I'm just saying then this point, it needs to be said in this point. If your grant involves the acquisition of land, then you must meet these conditions. Because if this is just a general grant letter and this is all going in there, people are going to be confused.
Yeah.
Alex, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, so I added on this last sentence that's now in purple to that one. I copied it straight out of the 1888 agreement. this provision shall apply only in cases where this line is circled and then initial name of the CPC signature. Does that make sense? Would that help that you can choose when you want to apply it and when not to?
Yes.
Well, I think it's an
That's all I'm looking
easy
for is clarity on for the applicant.
Well, you've also raised another question. You've raised a question as to who's going to certify ownership of, for example, the tack painting. We haven't even touched upon that kind of problem. So I think that the recorded documents really they pertain to land, and whether we want to apply that to a given case, the additional sentence will do that. If we want a certificate of title, then we circle it. We may not want a certificate of title because it's a de minimis project.
Well,
It's going to cost people money to get a certificate of title.
I think that's the point, yeah. So, if we're done with that section,
Yeah.
everybody, anything else to say about that? Okay, so next we go on to compliance. All work must comply with the Community Preservation Act, Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, and all applicable federal and state laws, regulations, and bylaws. Necessary permits and licenses to implement the project are the responsibility of the recipient. No local permit or license is waived by the award of this grant. Yeah, all so far okay? Liability. By making this award, the town does not accept any liability whatsoever for any acts, omissions, or errors associated with the project. Nothing in this grant agreement shall be construed to render the town or any elected or appointed official or employee of the town or their successors in office personally liable for any obligation under this grant agreement. Recipient agrees to indemnify and defend the town from all claims, suits, or demands and costs and expenses, including attorney fees resulting from implementation of the project. Termination. Failure to meet these conditions may result in suspension or termination of grant. And after we say all that, we say congratulations. And thank you for dedication to this important work. Yes, Lily.
So can you go up again to this liability thing? Okay. So recipient agrees. So to indemnify and defend the town from all claims. So many times the recipient is a committee or some other town entity, the rec department, whatever. It's kind of like, is the rec department going to defend the town from all claims? The rec department is the town. The committees are the town. It just seems kind of weird to me. I don't understand it.
I mean, I think I stole this because it was in the 1888 agreement between you, the CPC, and the town who owns the. I get it. I agree it's a little odd, but I mean, I don't think it hurts to leave it in there and our town council figure it out when it's committee versus town, and you're technically employees, I think, by being committee members. So, or it's a weird nexus. So.
I would keep it in. I would keep it in only because these things can get quite weird down the road, and if you have this additional stuff in here, it gives us another layer of protection as committee members. So,
Peter, what does it mean to indemnify then? I want to understand. If senior housing, let's say, gets sued, which we've already been threatened with. What does it mean to indemnify? I don't understand that.
Make us financially whole from any cost or damage.
So, like the senior housing committee, when it gets sued, and notice I'm saying it's not an if, when it gets sued, is going to be expected to assume the costs of the lawsuit?
You're an appointed entity, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to go back and let the town worry about that. Let town council defend it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying essentially. Like you're technically employees of the town,
Okay.
so like you would be fine because you're appointed, like Peter's saying.
Okay, so and then in the example of what Chris Harris is doing with the Friends of Deerfield, they would
Assume the
assume the
liability.
liability. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate the clarity.
Yeah.
I really wonder what other towns do for a grant agreement, if it's this legalese. Sorry, Peter, I know you're a lawyer, and that's where we differ, because I mean, this stuff is Greek to me. And I
Also
appreciate,
very difficult, and you can't make lightly of this stuff. Whenever there's a municipality involved, it's about 3 times as difficult to figure out.
Mhm.
And by its very nature, the municipalities essentially are giving a break in the court system, because the towns, the judges that actually decide these things are not going to look for ways to make a town liable. And there's a lot of municipal immunity involved, and all sorts of things that will help ease that particular problem. It gets much tougher now when you have major projects. You have people that are seeking permits from the town, suing the zoning board for failure to give them a permit, or citizens suing the zoning board for giving the permit, and you've got to figure out who's going to pay what. It really does. It really does come to a very interesting scenario, and there are no easy answers, especially for those of us that have been through this from time to time. So that being said, we just do the best we can, and if you're on a town board and you're acting in good faith, chances are pretty good you're going to get free representation, and you're not going to have a damage award against you personally.
Alex.
Yeah, I would just say I did look at quite a few. There's actually a lot of examples on the CPC website. I'd say we're actually probably less verbose than some other communities, especially when you get into, those bigger communities. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of that is because a lot of our CPC funds go to town committees or town projects. So I think your risk is also a little bit lower that like,
Okay.
you have to worry as much.
Well, Alex, I'm going to give a specific example. When you're talking about a conservation restriction, which in many ways is uncharted waters, you only have to go to the Franklin Land Trust and see their standard conservation restriction, which runs 12 pages.
Right. Right.
And I'll leave it at that.
Wow. So I think there's one thing left on this to actually figure out now that I think about it, which is what are we going to have at the top of the page for the heading? Does anybody have any ideas of what they'd like to see there? I mean, we could just have the logo of the town there, I suppose. Or
I think that the logo of the town, and it does say Christopher Dunn and Christopher Dunner at the bottom. There's two signers, but I think the chair of the CPC should be a signer. No, go all the way down. See, Christopher Dunn, Christopher Dunner.
oh yes.
But I think it would be good, excellent to come from the chair of the committee. And
Alex.
obviously put a date or whatever, the header.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can make that edit. I was just gonna say I could add the town logo. It does make it feel a little bit more official since it is town funds. And then put like, CPC chair. And I could put like a heading on the right hand side that is like, CPC and your chair and your info if you'd like, Kathy. And then mine too. Or I could just put whatever works is fine.
Yeah, you put my email, probably not my phone number, but
Yeah. No,
yeah.
for sure. And then I'll put like mine underneath it or something, town planner. So that way they've got, two contacts right front and center.
Okay, so if you want to just finish that draft as edited tonight, we can. I think, after we get through all these applications, which we're almost done, and we have to start working on the conditions for all the applications. And we'll have this letter, and then we send the letter out after town meeting. And once it's been voted on.
Yeah.
So I think, what does that bring us to? Any new business unanticipated? I don't have any. So if you don't have any, I think we could entertain a motion to adjourn.
But let's set our next date.
Oh yeah, I've got to do that. I always forget that.
You're really
Oh,
eager.
I'm very eager. How is February 11th for people? Gives some time because there's a lot. Get ready for that meeting with conditions on a couple of the projects going forward.
Works for me.
So Sean said yes, Anne, you're saying yes, Frank says yes, Peter,
I'm checking.
Jeff.
Well, do
We have-
we need more time? Is there more time required to get the things in order for us to vote on?
We can't take your call right now, so please leave us a message.
So Alex, do you think 2 weeks gives you enough time for the 1821?
I can try. I mean, I'm going to contact MHC. They are a little hard to contact, so I will try.
And
I can get language from our council probably to write something, but will I have all the, MHC contacts? Maybe not, but I think it'll
Let's push
be
it back
fine.
a little bit. Let's push it back to give some leeway there.
well, we're gonna need to get as much done as we can because we have like a early March deadline to get everything
Ah.
done. So we may need to have another meeting. I don't know that we're gonna get everything done next meeting. If we do, great, but it's very possible we won't. So I know we have to get the Mill River Cemetery completed. I know Julie Caswell couldn't make the meeting tonight because she had a wake to go to. She wants to have the Conservation Commission land application conditions done for that meeting so we can review that and vote on. So those are two things that should be done. And if the 1821 is done, then great. And if not, we can schedule another quick meeting for that.
Yeah, I can't come to that meeting on the 11th.
Oh, that's not good. Let's see. How about the 18th of February?
I'm fine on the 18th.
How about everybody else?
It's okay with me.
John?
I may be in New York.
Okay. Lily?
I can do it. It is the first night of Ramadan and Ash Wednesday. It's a heck of a day.
Anne? I feel like we have to have Peter there because for doing conditions, he's kind of the expert here. So I'd rather do it in 3 weeks so that I know he's on board. Yeah. If that's okay. I know Sean that Amy not, but I know you will miss us terribly.
I'm sure Sean's heartbroken to miss a meeting.
And I'm not entirely sure I will be gone, so I'm not a guarantee to miss on Wednesday.
Okay, that's good.
Not a lawyer.
So if that's everything, if there's no more news.
That's 6:15 on the 18th is what you're saying?
Great. Thank you.
That would be it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
After our senior housing meeting.
I know. I move that we adjourn until then.
A second? Nobody wants to say.
Oh,
I
second.
second.
I would think so. Any discussion? No. Okay, let's take a vote. Sean,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Jeff,
I
Lily,
Yeah.
Kathy, yes. Thank you, everybody. We will see you in 3 weeks.
Good night,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Stay warm.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Bye.